The first hearing of the Foreign Affairs Committee that we held this year, by the way, the first hearing was on the crisis in South Sudan. With the U.S. having such a long history with South Sudan, it's critical to see how the State Department and USAID is leveraging our unique influence to try to help bring this to an end. I said in my opening statement, the people of South Sudan sacrificed for decades to achieve independence. That makes the latest round of fighting largely attributable to their leadership's unwillingness to build an inclusive and viable South Sudan, all the more infuriating. Indeed, it appears that the greatest threat to South Sudan post-independence is South Sudan itself. At the hearing, I called for the sanctioning of individuals on both sides in South Sudan who have engaged in atrocities and human rights abuses. Correspondence directly to Juba is another way we're trying to get the point across. I led letters to President Kerr in August and December of last year, and since the Congress, especially the House, has long supported Southern Sudan, I thought it was important he heard from a friend. And this is something we continue to do. The August letter conveyed our concerns about the growing political tensions with the country and the growing authoritarian nature of governing. The December letter let Mr. Kerr and others, President Kerr and others, other political actors, know directly that future U.S. cooperation and assistance will be in jeopardy if the crisis continues. Much of the attention recently has been on South Sudan, but we can't forget about the neighbor to the north. Attacks on civilians in the southern part of the north continued unabated. Bombings by Sudanese military forces has been indiscriminate when targeting innocent people in the Nuba Mountains in South Sudan. To the east, Blue Nile State sadly faces the same fate, with atrocities at the hands of the regime in Khartoum. The Africa Subcommittee will be holding an important hearing tomorrow on the administration's broader Sudan policy with Special Envoy Donald Booth. It is a unique time in Khartoum. We should be capitalizing on it. The regime is barely clinging to power. Protests began in January 2011 as the country's economic conditions worsened due to its isolation. Government forces beat back the protests then, only to have the protests restart a year later. So with the Bashir regime weakening, we need to be wary of what is waiting in the wings. Replacing one auspicious government with another is not going to bring stability to Sudan or the broader region. We all, the UN donors, activists, advocates, civil society, we all need to get serious about building the foundations for democracy and rule of law in Khartoum. We have seen civil society, we've seen them out on the front pushing. So we want to avoid the type of implosion we're now witnessing in South Sudan in the north. That's why we need to be engaged. And let me just mention, too, I know on the top of your agenda this week is calling for a movement on the Sudan Peace, Security, and Accountability Act. We are supportive of that effort. And also, since this luncheon is focused on women, I wanted to briefly talk about the Electrify Africa Act, an important issue, legislation that I've introduced to try to help progress and development in this region. More than 900 million people do not have access to electricity in sub-Saharan Africa. That's 70% of the entire population of the continent. Women spend long days searching for wood and charcoal and dung to provide heat and light for their families, and the consequent indoor pollution actually kills 3.5 million women and people across Africa every year. It makes it one of the world's most deadly environmental issues. There's a right way to do this with Electrify Africa. I introduced this legislation some time ago. The administration now is coming online with Empower Africa. I think they call it working together. I'm sure we can do something about this problem because I think that you think about everything that requires electricity, including giving childbirth, in terms of kids trying to study by candlelight. I mean, if we can do this, if we have uninterrupted power that can go to families in Africa. I think we can do a great deal, and I'm pleased to announce that the committee is going to be marking up this bill on Thursday. So let me just, I just wanted to say that this is an area where we cooperate. I want to thank the former Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, who's here, for her cooperation on these issues as well. And I just would end by saying I can't commend Jewish World Watch enough for the Enough Project, and want you all to continue to hold the feet to the fire. When they feel the heat, I think they might see the light in terms of doing the right thing for the people of Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Congressmember Royce.